Well, and a closed mouth doesn't get fed. You have to tell people that you're a realtor. You have to put yourself out there. And I think you have to get over the embarrassment of putting yourself out there. You have to be embarrassed to get to the next step. You have to just power through it. And for lack of a better term, you have to hustle your way through it. But also, I think if you're going to come into an entrepreneur space, you need to be that entrepreneur. You need to have multiple streams of income. You need to be investing in different things. I don't think you can just rely on anybody. I don't think anyone should just rely on one thing, including a 9-to-5 job, because you can lose that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I've always been a big proponent of, if you're going to get that hustle mindset, which I hate that term, but if you really, that's what it is. If you're going to be an entrepreneur and you don't want to work a 9-to-5 job, well, then you better be prepared to work 24 hours a day.
Yeah, because a 9-to-5 is a false sense of security to some degree.
And I know I've like set more hours and I've been more structured, but I've been pretty vocal. The first 2 years, if you called me at midnight, I was answering my phone at midnight and I was working my butt off. And you have to do that at the beginning. I think a lot of realtors come in and they think they're just going to get deals. And that might happen for some people. You know, I had some family deals that I had, and some people might not have that. So there's going to be different opportunities for different people. But if you are just sitting there expecting work to come to you, you're never going to get that.
Right.
You might get a stray deal every once in a while. You can't live off that.
So that begs a question of, is there a certain type of personality type?
Yes.
I mean, do you have to be a type A? Do you have to be an extrovert?
No, I'm not an extrovert. I'm actually pretty introverted. And then my husband is very extroverted. He's extremely smart. He could never be an entrepreneur. He couldn't. And I even like, I'm like, well, you know, he's a firefighter. I'm like, why don't you have like another job? Why couldn't? And he literally, granted, he's almost 40 and he's like, I could like mow lawns or something. I'm like, oh my God, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, it's just like his mind doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And I think that you have to, and I was kind of just talking to him about this, we were just saying this morning, like, I like being able to be creative in my job. Okay, this isn't working, so I'm going to do this instead. And this isn't working, let's do this. I remember I was working at a dentist office and I was super young. I was 18 and we had these office meetings. I'm like, well, what if we tried this? And it was not welcome or received. And they're not in business anymore. And I really do think it's not just real estate and sales. You should always be trying out different things. You don't know what's going to work.
Right.
And I think you can kind of get, if you're not the owner or manager, you can get a little bit stifled with your creativity. In that job. Yeah.
And I think the personality thing really comes into play because for Bryson in particular, like his personality, he's wonderful at his craft, at being a firefighter.
He's a workhorse.
And he's a workhorse.
And very
the guy
smart.
Works and he's super smart, very extroverted. I mean, he would have all of, like if you looked at a piece of paper and said, yep, check.
Much better than me. Yeah.
He's the contender for a successful real estate agent. But the reality is he doesn't, that his personality doesn't fit the reality.
You're going to call him at 8 p.m. on a Friday? Absolutely not.
Yeah. He's like, I'll talk to you Monday.
Which, he leaves work at work. You know, he might have the occasional phone call, but he's not checking his phone on the weekends for work.
Well, I think one of the things for real estate is to be able to handle, to react well under pressure, to be able to handle a crisis. Because we're dealing with people's emotions. We can't be, and we've talked about this on numerous podcasts, but I think the people that match emotions have the hardest time in this business because they want to be best friends with their clients. They want to make sure everybody's happy all the time. And sometimes you got to tell people it's not going to work out. And if you can,
that's a lot of energy to match someone's energy and then stay there.
I don't have the energy to match my own family. I just,
especially if you have someone high wired, and
they're a roller coaster all the time. And if you get in, if you try to match everybody's energy, I mean, every phone call, you got to change who you are.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. So I think if you can just be even keeled when something's, when it's falling off the rails, just go, there'll be another deal.
Yeah.
We'll find you another house. There'll be another buyer for your house. Those types of things.
Yep.
I think that's an important one.
So what do you see as like the traits that people exhibit that do not make it, that are in and out the revolving door? What do you see?
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt.
They're putting themselves down. I can't do this. I can't. Yes, you can. I hate cold calling, but I know I can do it. You can do anything. You can make it work. You can try out different things. And I think a lot of people that aren't successful in it, it's because they're just not willing to keep going whenever you get 100 no's. you're going to get more no's than yeses.
So self-doubt.
Exactly. And I think it's the people that compare themselves to other successful people already. Well, they're doing so much better than me. Why can't I do? I'm a failure. I think that goes into self-doubt, but work on yourself and your own business.
And shift your mindset, because I look at someone, Ben. I want to work with Ben because I want to know what he does. I'm not over here. Am I doing what Ben's doing? No. My numbers are not the same, and I can't expect them to be the same if I'm not going to put in the work and the time and emulate that. And I think it's like you catch more bees with honey. I would rather pick Ben's brain or, anyone. I've called every realtor in town. Whenever I was first getting started, I traded camera work for real estate advice. You have to be willing to be creative and don't compare, but emulate.
That's a great point.
That's a good point. Yeah. And humble yourself too.
Yeah.
If you're just starting out, don't go out and be boastful and look what I did. I remember I was teaching the orientation, and I had somebody come up to me and go, I have 12 deals under contract right now. If I keep this going, I'm going to, end up selling 15 million and all this kind of stuff. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
So if you can do that, that's great. That poor person didn't sell another house that year.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's one of those, go do the day-to-day work. That's the best thing to do.
Yeah. And comparison is, and I just told my daughters this, comparison is the thief of joy. Like, because you could be doing some really great things at the level that you're at, and then you look up and you try to compare with what someone else is doing, and all of a sudden you feel down about yourself. And that is not a productive mindset to have. There is something to be said for putting your head down and grinding and being thankful and grateful for what you're doing and accomplishing. And I think that plays into, the mindset that you
I totally agree. Yeah. It's like, that's one thing I'm really happy me and Bryson both do not have. We do not have a keeping up with the Joneses mentality. If it all goes south and we move into one of our rentals, that's completely fine, because at least we tried. I think whenever people start comparing, you're who you surround yourself with. If you're surrounded by kind, hardworking, uplifting people, you're going to have those traits as well. So I've never really understood the being jealous of someone because they're doing well.
Yeah. And I have to be honest, though, I've struggled with self-worth.
Really?
Self-worth for me has been something that I've had to work through over the years. And I don't know if it was just something that I was instilled with, or something that happened when I was younger or whatever, but I've always had to fight through, no, I am worthy of this. I have put in the work. I have put in the time, because that little voice creeps up. So, no matter what stage you're at, that voice can creep in pretty quickly and derail you if you listen to it. And that's one of those things.
I think this is where how I grew up was just, my parents were so you can do anything you want. And I have that so heavily instilled in my mind. This is the stupidest thing, but I have it in my head, if the end of the world came and had to do heart surgery, I might mess up a few times, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yep.
Right. That's right.
I just think you can figure out anything,
Yeah.
So don't, and if you work hard, you do deserve what you get.
Absolutely.
And even if you fail, that's okay. You're going to pick yourself up and you're going to do it again. It's okay.
Well, and people seeing failure as that I can't fail. No, that's part of the process. The moment you accept that is part of the process, it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. It's not the end. It's just the next step. It's where you shift. It's where you make the changes.
Yeah. It's not a fail. It's that didn't work. Let's try this now. Maybe this will work differently.